And there we are. Greetings from Riverton. Yes, it's been a while since we've talked. Last time we talked, we had mentioned the public notice for Simple250, our better, our we called it. I went back and looked through some of my old slates that I do for the videos, and last year, I think I came on the live stream and called this our last resort. It was kind of a Hail Mary that we did a year ago when we put the Simple 250 as a presentation to the commissioners just before they came out with the decision on MB docket 19193. We're going to talk about we're going to talk about some things here. There's a lot of mixed messages going on right now and a lot of confusion between what's going on with the Simple 250 petition for rulemaking, what's going on with the petition for reconsideration, and then there were some Radio World articles that speculated some things that were not exactly true. And so the idea of this is to try to demystify what's going on. And because, there's a lot of you out there right now that are putting the word out for Simple 250 because you know that we need 250. You know we need these upgrades on these stations. This is going to help a lot of people out, a lot of stations, and reach more listeners and reach their existing listeners better. And in the big picture, it validates the importance of radio as a medium, especially in this day of streaming services like YouTube. But this is actually the best way to get instant communication out to everybody. The chat is open. Feel free to ask questions on the chat. I'll be watching that. And in addition, you can call in on 1-855-HI-MICHI. We do have the line open, so hopefully it works. And we can answer your calls live and answer any questions. Let's talk about this first. And then if there's still some time, we'll open up the forum to other LPFM or other broadcast-related issues that are going on right now that you might want to talk about. Or you have a question regarding something at your station or something going on. But let's talk about this first. As we mentioned, there was a lot of confusion because there's really two totally separate LP250 events that are taking place right now. There is one event is the FCC's decision in MB docket 19193, which was the big technical rule changes that we got last year. And in there was a lot of things that we got. We got the boosters codified, we got the construction, and we got the minor moves extended out. We got a few things in there. A couple of the big ticket items we were not able to get, things like LP250 of the old variety of the what we called the 73-815 regime, which is what the FCC called too complex. And it was really 11810 was filed in basically a direct reaction to all the activity that was going on with the FM translators, the big 250-mile moves of 2016 and auctions 99 and 100 in 2017 and 2018 respectively. Those were the reasons that previous petition was put out there. And also with our finding that, you know, a majority of LPFM applications that were filed during the 2013 window were filed by hired help, people like myself and Todd Urich and Clay Leander, and and the big ticket engineers and all of them. You know, a lot of folks did file. You know, a lot of hired help did file, which means that these are people that have access to the appropriate tools that can do contours. And that was the FCC. Just they went off the deep end with the whole concern over the contours. They also raised an LCRA issue. So, you know, just to kind of, demystify some things here, here's the timeline of what happened over this past year and change. On April 2nd, 2020, this was after the comments and reply comments were taken in the FCC technical notice of proposed rulemaking. That's the MB docket 19193. The FCC put everything together, and like they normally do 3 weeks before an open meeting, they put out a circulation draft. This is something that Chairman Pai has started. I'm glad that Acting Chair Rosenworcel is keeping up with this. This is a great internal policy at the FCC. It helps us out a lot, but it also gives us a sneak preview 3 weeks ahead of the meeting of what may take place. Now, up to 1 week before the meeting, stakeholders like myself are able to talk to the commissioners, talk to the commissioner's staff, talk to the audio division staff, whatever decision-making personnel we want to at the FCC, as long as we disclose it. That's called an ex parte presentation. After reading the FCC's determination in the circulation draft, which basically stated that, well, LPFM is too complex, the 250 proposal is too complex, and the bust in the 20-kilometer buffer zone violated the LCRA. We went back, I went back, redid the numbers, said, okay, then let's just bring LP 250 as a second class of service with longer distance separation numbers. You know, we used the same distance separation numbers. We did in the 11749 rulemaking petition, and then we changed it like 180 degrees in frickin' 11810. But you know, we did that. We tried to keep the numbers the same as LP 100 early on, because that's what the FCC originally proposed in 2012. In 2012, the FCC proposed to bust the buffer zone. And so we thought, okay, this is good culture. This is culture at the FCC. Okay, we'll accept this. All right. 8 years later, they decide, nope, busting the buffer zone, we think it's going to be an LCRA issue. Okay, fine. So we went back and did all the numbers again. April 23rd was when the FCC went ahead and released the report and order on 19193. I believe, if I remember correctly, this one was taken off the agenda and voted early, since there was really no high-profile controversy, and also, too, that freed up the agenda so they can elaborate on some of the more controversial in the mainstream issues that may have been news of the day. So after the report and order was issued last year, that, of course, started the petitions for reconsideration coming in. Foundation for a Beautiful Life, and let me tell you who these folks are. They are the former permittees of KQEK Cupertino, California. They are one of the permittees who I had who's on my who is suspected of being a shadow owner. That's has a shadow owner of the New Tang Dynasty, or NTD television network. And these are the Falun Gong followers. They're the same ones that do the big Shen Yun dance performances that sometimes tour the country into the major cities. Same groups. And there was a lot of controversy behind the FBL application going through the process. We have a whole entire page dedicated to the documents on that organization. But bottom line is, what they filed a petition for consideration on was an FCC policy that any rule changes that happen while an application is still pending, the rule changes can also apply to that pending application. The problem was that in their case, their application had already been dismissed. They had filed for reconsideration, got denied. Application for review got denied. They went to the courts, got a writ of, the judge issued a writ of mandamus in favor of the FCC, so it went back to the FCC. I believe it's still sitting in limbo at the FCC. This organization felt that they even had the right, while this was pending, to start broadcasting again. So they had actually turned their station back on without authorization from the FCC, ran it for about a day. They actually informed the FCC that they were going to do this. And they got this. The FCC told them to shut down, and all the board members of that organization are now on basically a 10-year suspension from LPFM. They cannot be involved in any LPFM application for the next 10 years. So we'll see what we've got going on there. I think that is also under reconsideration right now. There's a big legal hodgepodge over that. Anyway, June 11th, the rules that didn't require Office of Management and Budget approval were published in the Federal Register. That technically started the 30-day clock for the petitions for reconsideration. Todd Urich filed his petition for reconsideration on July 14th. And this is the one that what he asked for was reconsideration with the way that the FCC handled the way they handled LP250 in in what was originally proposed, what was originally talked about, which was the 73-815 regime, the contours, translator relief, all that. There was also part of the reconsideration had to do with certified transmitters, and it also had to do with proofs of performance on directional antennas that were not being used for a specific exempted purpose, such as a government public safety agency, second adjacent waiver, or to meet an international agreement. So those two petitions for reconsideration, the May 26th and the July 14th, are the ones that the FCC has been now working on and processing and going through for the past year. And while all that was going on, a couple Fridays ago on May 21st, the FCC put the petition for rulemaking that REC filed. Now, what's not in this timeline, which I forgot to put in there, is when we filed that petition for rulemaking, which I believe was in, let me see if it's, let's see if we've got a date on that. If you ever go to recnet.com/filings, you'll see really everything that we have filed. Okay, I filed that on May 28th of 2020. So 2 days after FBL's petition for reconsideration, before publication in the Federal Register, and just over a month after the report and order, we had a fully prepared petition for rulemaking for Simple250. So nearly 1 year later, on May 21st of this year, the FCC put that item on public notice. Now, RM 11909, again, is Simple250. This was what we talked about with the FCC on April 10th, that the FCC pretty much said in the report and order we were too late to the party for this. But they said at the time, if you want to refile, you could file it again as a petition for rulemaking. Now, I told staff back around in that round, back in around April 10th, that I was not going to be filing a petition for reconsideration in this proceeding because A, yeah, I understand we're coming late to the party, and B, I did not want to delay the window because the Simple250 is not dependent on the window. And I just wanted to make everybody clear on that. And staff agreed at the time that a new petition for rulemaking would not delay the window. In a conversation with staff I had a few days before 11909 went on public notice, they reiterated the same thing. They said, a petition for rulemaking like that is not going to impact or delay the window, because REC's position has always been on LP250 that it should not be offered to new applicants, but instead as upgrades. We need the LP100 service to gauge demand for potential LP250. I'd rather put in 2 LP100 stations 24 kilometers apart from each other than 1 LP250 station. It makes sense. So at that time, we did not know that the FCC was also working on getting the order on reconsideration ready to go. And, our first glimpse of that happened on the 26th of May when Acting Chair Jessica Rosenworcel posted in the blog of what was coming up in the next FCC meeting. And one of the items on there was the order on reconsideration. Of course, they called it the LPFM, an LPFM order. And then on the 27th, the FCC, 3 weeks before the meeting, the FCC officially announced what the agenda was going to be, and they included all the circulation drafts of all the items that were on the agenda, including the one for the order on reconsideration. The order on reconsideration is basically denying both petitions for reconsideration, upholding the status quo on what was decided in 19193. There was a lot of confusion after this. After this circulation draft came out, there was a good positive article in Radio World about 11909 event, coming on public notice. But there was this other article that was written by Randy Stein. And the original headline made it sound like that the FCC was settled on LP 100, and what is going on now with the Simple 250 is just fruitless and is not going to go anywhere. And that's not what Rosenworcel said that's not what Rosenworcel meant in the blog. What they're looking for in the blog and what she wrote in the blog, and if you read deep into the order on reconsideration of the circulation draft, you'll see what the finality is that they're talking about. They're talking about the finality of these two petitions for reconsideration. The idea is that they want to get the next window, the next LPFM window out the door sometime after November, when the full service NCE window happens. After that article was released, I went ahead and contacted the editor-in-chief at Radio World and basically just said, what is this? This is speculation if I ever read it. Very opinionated speculation, which is unlike this kind of an article in Radio World, unless it's a guest commentary, which it wasn't disclosed as such. So, we went, they agreed. They went ahead and updated that article. REC issued a statement. REC issued a first statement after the original article was issued. Radio World updated. The next day, REC retracted the original statement, issued a new statement regarding the rewritten words, and then Radio World did an article about our statement. So Radio World did actually try to pick up and try to resolve the issue. And yeah, I think they did it. I think they did a pretty good job in the resolution. This, should not have happened. This should not have happened in the first place. And so that's kind of where we're at right there with that. So right now, like I said, today the FCC had voted on the 19193 order of recon. I got an email from staff saying, yeah, they did vote and they did uphold the petition for reconsideration. I did put in a last-minute ex parte presentation, a letter to the commissioners and staff, touching on the certified transmitter issue, and specifically clarifying the case that they cited at International Crusade of the Penny, KLIE LP, Fountain Valley, California. Because I was personally involved in that case, and this was not a case of intentional wrongdoing. It was a case of the vendor switching transmitters because they were out of stock of one, but in stock of the other, and one was certified, one was not. And the station, which, remember, LP Simple, are not experienced broadcasters, and they had no way of knowing that they were installing a non-certified transmitter until an inspection 5 years later. And in that case, Bext, and I will mention them by name, Bext did even exchange out a 5-year-old transmitter with a brand new certified transmitter. Fantastic job, Bext. They continue to get my high honors. Anyway, Simple 250 comment deadline is June 21st. So where does that leave us? Simple 250 has not been negated by today's action. What was negated by today's action was the 73815 regime. RM 11810 was what was negated today. And, at the time, after this came out, I gave up. I put my hands up on RM11810. I put my hands up on the 73815 regime and said, no, we're not going to go that way. And look, I said, look, my goal in life, one of my goals in life, my bucket list item is to get some form of 250 watt LPFM service. And you could tell I've been doing this now for the past nearly 10 years. We've been trying to get this for we're coming up on 9 years now. We've been trying to get this for 9 to 10 years. And we want to make this happen. I want to make this happen. There's a lot of people who this will impact. So here's the thing. Go to recnet.com/LP250. Read the details of the petition, the proposal. It's actually very simple. They wanted simple. We gave them simple. It's just a second class of service. And, not every LP100 station is going to qualify for it. You can go to check.lp250.com to check to see if your station can upgrade on your current channel. If you can't, it may display alternate channels that you could consider. We've put LP250 information into the My LPFM tool. So if you are an existing LPFM looking to move, you want to see if when you move, if the channel could possibly be upgradable, then you can do that. You can check there, and it will tell you whether it's a possible LP250 upgrade channel. Now, of course, a lot can change between now and the time that LP250 does happen. Again, I am not providing, right now, because of everything that's going on, I am not providing any one-on-one counseling on LP250 upgrades because we are nowhere near that point where you could file for one of these. What's going to happen now with LP250 is we're going through this comment period. There will be a reply comment period till sometime in July. And then the FCC can do nothing if they wanted to. They could just sit there and let it rot. Or they could take action on it. And this is where hopefully the FCC will be opening up again in D.C. so I can take a trip. I can start visiting face-to-face. We get a lot more done face-to-face than we do on these conference calls. So hopefully we'll be able to start face-to-facing later this year. Local stations can get involved by contacting your representatives, by contacting your federal representatives, and having them send letters to Acting Chair Rosenworcel to inquire about what's going on with LP250. They get a lot of pressure to do this. They may move, it could get them to want to move forward. We must also understand, too, that we have a different FCC now than we did 1 year ago. We have, just over a year ago. Just over a year ago. That's right. What am I thinking? That's right. Everything changed earlier this year. But we have a totally different FCC because Ajit Pai is gone. And O'Reilly is gone. And especially O'Reilly. O'Reilly was really one of the biggest impediments to anything that LPFM wanted to do because he was literally the NAB's lapdog. I'll say it. NAB's lapdog. Max is asking, is asking representatives more effective than asking our listeners or volunteers to file comments? At this time, on this day, between now and the beginning of July, in early July, the answer is no. We want the comments. We want to fill the record right now in RM 11909. I'm talking about what's going to happen after the comment period's over with and after the FCC's not looking at this anymore, directly, and, basically keeping the pressure on the commissioners, keeping the pressure on the commissioners to keep LP 250 on their minds after this comment period is over with. Because what we want is a notice of proposed rulemaking that would propose this second class of service. Now, for those of us who are, the bigger stakeholders, we'll be engaged in, at least I will be. I cannot speak for anybody else, but, I will be engaged as much as I can in speaking directly with staff, speaking directly with the commissioners, media advisors, and working that piece. But if there is grassroots support that comes in from the stations and from the communities saying, look, we need this, then that helps. But we don't need to contact representatives right now. No need to contact representatives right now. Let's get comments going in. Let's get the comments stacked. And when the whole net neutrality thing was happening, with all the comments coming in, and I know there was controversy behind a lot of the comments that were filed as far as how they originated, but it literally crashed their system. And so I am not endorsing crashing the FCC's electronic comment filing system, but I am encouraging comments from stations. If you go to recnet.com, look on the main page. There's an article there called "Filing Comments in RM 11909," and we talk about the various things that stations can talk about in comments. Because I'd like to get some good comments from stations, testimonials. But then also, too, if you want listeners to stack the deck, feel free to do so. Now, keep in mind, this is not an election. This is not a popularity contest. This is not we must have 10,000 signatures by this day or else this will not be considered. That's not the way the FCC works. But, obviously, if there's a lot of public support and a lot of community need, and community need is two big buzzwords in the Local Community Radio Act, then we can move forward. All right, question. Let's do this. Okay, Ryan first. So for new stations, only file for LP 100, then upgrade 10 years from now. I'm hoping that it doesn't take 10 years. What I'm hoping for, and I'll give you the reality here, I'm hoping that we will have an LPFM 100 window next year. I'm hoping that we have it sometime in second or third quarter of 2022. That would be probably the closest reality because of the timing with the NCE window. That will take place this year. And then if the FCC was to fast track this, I'm thinking that we could probably see LP 250 as soon, and don't hold me to this, please, late 2023, early 2024. When you take into consideration all the things that are going on at the FCC, when you take into consideration, where this sits on their priority list, we also want to try to get this. We want to try to get the big momentum going after the president adds the third majority commissioner, because if we can get a 3-2 majority on LP 250, then we got it in the bag. Because right now we're deadlocked 2-2 in the commission. And while I think Carr is going to be totally against the idea, I'm not sure yet about Symington. Symington, I see him as more as a realist. Yes, he was appointed by Trump. And I think Trump took a gamble on putting him in there, thinking that Trump was going to get reelected, and that Symington was going to lead the commission as chairman, and that they were going to, and that they were going to wipe out the Section 230 with the social media because of everything that went on with the president and other people being kicked off of Facebook and such. But of course, the election did not go his way, and Symington is there for a 5-year term. And some allies past dealings with Symington and Symington's staff have proven to be, we'll say tepid, bordering on positive. So, I would think that I would think if we were able to get this fast tracked through, or at least be able to medium track it through, that LPA 250 could happen sometime in 2024. Now, once the FCC adopts the order, there's then the next process, which is the OMB, or Office of Management and Budget approval process. And that is a technicality because of the information collection. The FCC would have to change the form. The form would have to support 250. So that could be a wait of several months. Even after the FCC adopts the service, it could take several months afterwards just because of OMB. So basically to sum it up, what's going on today, what happened today with the FCC deciding on the orders on reconsideration and putting, quote, finality to that LPFM issue has zero impact, zero impact on RM 11909. These are two parallel tracks that are running. One is the old LP 250. The other is the new LP 250. The FCC, in this order on reconsideration, if you read the footnotes, they do seem to be pretty positive about the fact that REC did address some of the commission's concerns in this petition for rulemaking that was just that was filed last year and just went to public notice last month, specifically on the issue of simplicity and the issue of the Local Community Radio Act. So I think we've got some appetite at the FCC. This was promoted as a rural initiative, and we did that mainly because that's the biggest benefactor. The rural community is the biggest benefactor. As somebody who lives in one of those rural communities, I definitely can understand. And also, too, rural is a big buzzword right now at the FCC, especially on the broadband front. So if, the FCC right now is doing what they can to try to close the digital divide, as they say, and trying to improve the quality of life for those in rural areas. Those in America's heartland, those who put the food on your table. Remember that. Remember those folks. They're the ones that put the food on your table. Yeah. So Max says, so old LP 250 is in 19193 and new is in RM 11909. Yes. That's a good way to say, that's a good way to do it. Old 250, simple 250. Complex 250, simple 250. Okay? What the FCC killed is complex 250. They didn't even want to consider simple 250 at the time because it was too late to the party. The petition for reconsideration was regarding complex 250. And the order of reconsideration has rejected has upheld the rejection of Complex 250 and has acknowledged that Simple 250 has been proposed and is currently on public notice. So as simple as that. 2 different LP 250 proposals. One is going out, one is in for now. Let's see where it goes. So that's where we're at on that. Let's see, non-LP 250 related stuff. What things other than legal nonprofit registration status should we complete in order to be ready for applying for an LPFM station when the window opens? And we're in Puerto Rico. Well, Puerto Rico is going to be, I mean, there is still some availability in Puerto Rico, but Puerto Rico is going to be a tough place to get an LPFM. It's a lot harder with the full service NCE coming up. On full service NCE, if you're anywhere on that island, there's no availability. There's very slight availability inland, very slight. If you go to our recnet.com and go to the filing window tab and look at the availability maps, we have one specifically for Puerto Rico, and you can look there. But yeah, I mean, really, yeah, you've got to be a nonprofit educational organization. You've got to have that paperwork already established with the Puerto Rico government. So you register as a nonprofit corporation. They will go ahead and register you. They'll usually stamp a document or stamp your articles of incorporation. A lot of folks use services to do this. Now, you can also incorporate stateside to get through the FCC. A lot of people use these services such as out of Delaware. I use a service out of Delaware. And you can incorporate in Delaware. You can still be a Puerto Rico station and incorporate in Delaware. You can do that. That is legal. Now, there may be Puerto Rico laws that state that if you're going to conduct business, collect money, take donations, that you have to register for what's called a foreign corporation status. That basically says, yeah, we're a Delaware corporation, but we're doing business in Puerto Rico. Okay, so you've got that registered, so you're good there. I mean, that's really the basic thing that you need, other than identifying your site, getting site assurance, making sure that whoever, owns the site, that if you're granted a construction permit, that you'd be able to build there. The application is going to ask for that person's name and phone number. This is something new that just came out. Also, too, think about your organization and create an educational statement. And basically what you're going to want to do is just a short, little one paragrapher that, describes your organization's educational activities right now and how we can, and how the station is going to advance that educational program. Remember this, don't just say, oh, we're going to play music. Don't say that. You've got to use words like instruct and teach and anything that says, yeah, this is educational. Now, of course, keep in mind one thing. The FCC can't bind you to the educational statement that you make. And you are free to broadcast, what you want, of course, within the rules of overall non-commercial broadcasting. So, but you got to get over this hurdle. And so, we'll get that going. Can we be registered in Florida? Okay, I will say this, from an FCC perspective, yes. From a Florida or Puerto Rico state government perspective, I don't know. You'll need to check with those states or check with an attorney. I can't answer that kind of question. Can you can you recommend someone to help us with being ready? Well, as we get closer to a window, REC will be doing filings and helping out LPFMs. We'll be we'll be offering services. We are working on a new version of the My LPFM tool, which we're trying to get done in time for the next filing window. There will be functionality in there both for existing LPFMs, as well as there will be functionality for new applicants that want to be able to purchase access to the My LPFM tool to be able to look for new facilities. And we're having to do that there because of all the information theft that took place in 2013 with our tools. We will be announcing some things, but existing LPFM stations that are already licensed will have free access into the new My LPFM tool. It will require a registration with REC. If you already have signed up for REC Voluntary Public File, your Voluntary Public File password will work on My LPFM. We are making the passwords interchangeable. So it's built on that same platform. So that's where we're at on that. All right. Okay, I don't see anybody sitting on the phone to check. But so what we'll do is just leave it open here for about a minute or two. See if anybody else has any questions. Anybody else have any questions regarding LP250, regarding what we have coming up here? Any questions about anything LPFM related? Harmonia Radio. Yeah, we'll be filing with REC. Great. Well, I suggest is stay tuned to the REC website at recnet.com. Stay tuned to the REC Facebook page. There it is right there at RecNet. Those are the two places where you'll hear things on Facebook first, and then eventually on the website. That's usually the direction it goes. Sometimes it goes to the website first. Depends on what it is, but breaking news will always go to Facebook first on the REC Network's Facebook page. Well, not seeing or hearing anything. I think we'll go ahead and call it. Again, thank you for watching. I hope you understand what's going on. Again, if you came in late, the confusion between the LP250, what the FCC acted on today was the old complex LP250 proposal, and what is currently being, what the FCC is currently taking comments on right now is the simple LP250 proposal. So despite an article that came out in a trade recently that kind of speculated that LP250 was dead even before it started, not true. When do you think the LPFM stuff will open up? Are you talking about the window? A window, I'm estimating middle of next year, subject to change. If you're referring to the My LPFM tool, that's already out there. The current tool is already out there. Go to recnet.com/mylpfm or go to mylpfm.com. It only works for existing stations. So if you want to, the idea of the current tool is that existing LPFMs can use it for filing, for getting information on modifications, where, because they have to put their call sign in there. They have to put the station's call sign in there, and then it sets a limit on how far you can look off of that call sign, as far as like if you want to look at a different address or somewhere else that you want to move to, or if you just want to do a channel change at your existing location. You just put in the call letters, and then there's a channel change button, and it will just show you any alternate channels that may be available at your current location. Let's say you're getting interference. But new tools will be coming out soon. This is an item that like I said, this is something we're actively. I've been working on this for the past 2 weeks now. Is developing this new platform. We're still at least about maybe a couple more weeks out, if not a little longer, before we actually release a product for the new My LPFM. But My LPFM version 2, which is the one which is the one that's currently out there, is online and working for existing LPFM stations. For new locations, for new applicants, there is one tool that you can go to right now that's in the REC Toy Box, and that's recnet.com/premise, PREMIS, Papa Romeo Echo, Mike India Sierra. And what that tool will do is it will take your address, and it takes an address and then just dumps out a ton of information from our database about that address. And one of the items on there is the number of potential LPFM channels that are available at a location. It will not tell you what the channel numbers are, but it will tell you whether it was able to find potentially available channels. There's also the maps. There's also maps online that you can look at, the LPFM potential availability maps. Similar to the ones for the non-commercial that have all the different colored dots on them. And you can look there. That'll kind of give you like a high-level view of what may or may not be available. Can I ask you a question in email or a Facebook chat? It's usually better to ask by email. Honestly, I hate using Facebook chat for extended, for questions that require an extended answer. I mean, have you tried typing in that little box? Even when you put it on full screen, you're still typing in a little box. I really don't like Facebook chat that much. Facebook chat is great for saying, hey, how you doing? Okay, fine, we'll see you at 6 o'clock. Okay, great. What you would normally use a text message for. But that's what I use, But otherwise, LPFM at recnet.com, you see it flash through here every so often. Please go ahead and do that. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to this channel. And let's get our subscribers up. So that way, anytime that we, and of course, hit the little notification dingle there. So that way we know that way you'll know when something new comes out. Can the premise tool take coordinates? No. It's not a coordinate-based system right now. It is strictly an address-based system. And also on there, if you use the premise system, it's also going to show you who your senators and your congressperson is. So if you are going to eventually, after the comment periods are over with, and you want to write to your elected officials, the premise tool does give the details on how to do that. I mean, there's other weird stuff in there, like what the AM ground conductivity is, and just all kinds of stuff out of our database is in that tool. And but one of the things that's in there is the LPFM availability. So I mean, I use that tool just to get a look at an address, to see how my systems are seeing specific addresses and such. It's more of a troubleshooting tool that I've used, that I put out there for the public to use. Some of the tools that are out there, FCC.today originally started as an internal tool that I used just to monitor the LPFM grants that came in. And after the big grant phase was over with, we put it out there for everybody to use. And then of course we developed systems around that. Another thing that was mentioned, the FCC, LPFM stations the FCC still having issues with the way that LPFM stations are being listed in the LMS public database, the public data that the FCC uses both for their FM query tool on their own website, as well as the raw data that's sent out to, that's used by anybody who wants to use the data. For example, radio locator. The Cavill Mertz site there, fccinfo.com. These sites use the data feed from the FCC's LMS database. The problem is that the way that database is messed up because right now it's not representing low power FM stations, specifically their effective radiated powers, correctly. We have stations that are showing in their database as operating 30 or 100 milliwatts. FCCdata.org is correct, because we don't use that raw data. We don't use the raw data from LMS for our engineering information. We actually have our own dedicated system that goes out and reads the applications. What we do is when, we have the FCC Today, which picks up the real-time information from the FCC every 10 to 15 minutes throughout the day. But what we do is once we find out about those applications, we then go in and parse those applications and read all the different data elements off of it. And then we have that information already. For LPFMs, we also figure out the height above average terrain, because sometimes it doesn't always match up with the applications. And that's why our tools have the effective radiated powers more correct than radio locator. Radio locator will show a tiny contours. Ours will show the regular size one. They'll show us tiny power. Ours will show the correct ones. And that's the reason why. So with that, we are coming up on the hour. So again, everyone, please support RM 11909. Please show your support for LP250. Please feel free to ask on the REC Facebook page any clarifications on anything that you hear about LP250. We're expecting, of course, opposing comments from the NAB and other similar stakeholders. We expect that. We're ready for it. And then the REC comments in RM 11909 will be prepared and probably posted over this weekend. And so, but again, please continue to show your support. And again, subscribe to the page. Anything that you can do to help, we would appreciate it. We're working hard at this. We want to make this happen. And it's just going to require the same amount of public pressure that was put on the FCC back before 2000 to create the whole low power FM service in the first place. We need, if we can just have at least 1/3 of the amount of oomph that went into things that happened in 1999 and 1998 leading up to the LPFM services creation, that'll help. A lot of stations are going to benefit. We've got the numbers. It looks great. We can quantify this. We can make this work. Despite what others are going to say, this is the most interference protected version of LP250 that we or the FCC has proposed. So you can't get any more protected than this. This is it. This is the outer echelon of LP2, of what we can do with an LP250 service. Some are saying, we might say, yeah, it's a Hail Mary, but I would rather have simple 250 than no 250. Simple as that. With that, stay safe. And Good afternoon from Riverton.